time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, he says, on all who spend in good cause. Good deeds are opportunities, sparkling bright and true, raising you in the sight of Allah and adorning Al-Jannah for you. So rush to earn his reward, don't forget the oppressed, and when you go to sleep at night.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Dear brothers and sisters, dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. From your host, as always,
Ismail Bullock
and Gabriel Al-Romaani. We're back here as every Thursday, alhamdulillah, 7:30 UAE time, and I believe it's 6:30 Mecca time. And we are the show that talks about things that a lot of people don't talk about. We are the live show, unscripted, I think the only scripted show, chat show, talk show that deals with Muslim issues around the world. It's chit chat, it's talk show, we have guests, all kinds of things, alhamdulillah, that concern Muslims. And we are having a series of shows now, and I think it caught a lot of people's attention, alhamdulillah. And you can check our Facebook page that is getting a lot of views, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, mashallah, now and we've gone up to I just checked the page, mashallah, over 1,000 likes now,
without any advertising,
and that's without advertising, alhamdulillah. Yeah. And, you know, mashallah, again, the number will come up on the screen. People can call us.
Yeah.
And we got so many calls, mashallah, last week.
Last week was a great episode.
It was amazing, mashallah. It was really good.
And people are calling from all over, and I hope that you can call us, inshallah, this week, because this is your show. We want to hear from you. Hit us a comment on Time to Please Allah at Facebook. And you can also check us on our personal pages, Ismail Bullock and Gabriel Al-Romaani.
That reminds me, I mean, mashallah, I remember posting both on the Time to Please Allah and my page that, you know, it was an amazing show. We got lots of calls, and some calls we couldn't even entertain them because there were so many and time ran out. And I mentioned that the South African sister who said that she loved the show. Yeah. And what was nice is there was another viewer came and put under, "We do love the show," you know, with exclamation marks. So mashallah, it seems that people are enjoying the show.
You mind sharing? I mean, you shared with me what you got a message from someone.
Yeah, actually,
I would like
mashallah,
you to share that on the show, yeah, because it was very interesting.
I happen to be the one, because I regularly kind of check the page.
Yes, you do.
On the Time to Please Allah page. It wasn't
directed to me. I check it
once
in a while too, but you're more active on it.
So, yeah, it wasn't directed to me, but it was basically the sister saying that, you know, alhamdulillah, she really enjoyed the show, and that she was from India, and she used to be Hindu, and then she became Muslim after, she became Muslim 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And what she said is that, she said that she found the show helpful, and she said at the same time, slightly off the topic, but it's relevant because our guest who's coming on is one of the people she mentioned in this video. Right. And she mentioned that there was a seminar that me, you, and this brother, Abdullah, had taken part in.
That was about 2 years ago now, right?
Probably at least 2 or 3 years, called Meet the Reverts. You can find it on YouTube. Kind of in detail talks about each of our stories.
It's a long one, actually.
It's about 2 hours, because you've obviously got mine's 45 minutes, and you've got yours, and you've got Brother Abdullah's. So, and she said that she knew Islam was the truth for some time, and she'd been given dawah, mashallah, by a brother, and she just wasn't ready to make the final plunge, as they say, or the final step. Right. So she said to the brother, he said, "Look, I sent you this video, talk about these reverts and their experiences." So mashallah, she said she watched the Meet the Reverts that we took part in, and that was her final
push,
you know, the decision maker. And then after watching that, she said, "I was confident and I was ready to make shahada." So that's nice in the sense of, you know, these kind of shows can be very, you know, inspiring to people who are new Muslims or yet to become Muslim. You'd be surprised.
You never know where you touch, subhanAllah. You know, I mean, it's such a, you know, some people might think it's such a small thing, but yet somewhere, someone on the other end of the screen is sitting there watching, saying, "No, like, this is it." You know, this is, and we all know that we've heard that inspiring speech or that person saying something that really made a difference in our life. And I think specifically the sister said that she was having issues with, you know, feeling with family and telling them, and right, or
that's
something.
Right, yeah.
And then how we told our story about how our family and so on.
I mean, obviously, she could relate to the brother Abdullah, who will come on in the second part, because without telling his story for him. But obviously, he was a Hindu, so
Right.
this also, sure, definitely would have helped her to relate to, because it's probably a lot harder for certain countries and certain cultures to tell them than maybe it will be for sometimes in the West. To some extent, families can be a lot more relaxed, but in
Right.
certain countries, people can be physically abused or even worse. So it can't be easy.
And this is actually the topic for today. We're going to try to discuss, obviously issues of new Muslims and so on, but specifically telling our families, telling friends that we finally made the decision. We embraced Islam. We've decided to, change the way we live, to move on to a different path, and we found the truth. And obviously, at the beginning, it's just something very difficult because, you've been raised and brought up in a certain way your whole life, and everyone knows you as this person, and all of a sudden, this 180 change or adjustment or whatever you want to call it. And I remember myself when I decided to become Muslim, I didn't want to tell everyone right away. I was shy. I'm not sure. To be honest, I was actually embarrassed because of the way people were thinking about Islam and the image that I had before. And to be honest, people were very shocked. How come this person? And not to to bring out my pastor to brag or anything like that, but I was quite popular and this sports person and always with cars and friends and so on. And people were very shocked that okay, you're leaving all that to become a Muslim and to pray and to stay away from drinking and partying and girls and so on. And specifically, my brother was just, he couldn't believe it. I mean, he's like, how, we used to hang around.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, we used to hang around locked together and party and whatnot. So he was saying that, you're like this. And even till today, he sometimes says, don't you remember you used to do this and you used to do that? And how come, who are you now? You become so religious. And even my family on the other side, because I was quite a strong Christian, and I was the one in the family who was pushing people to go to church or going to church by myself, and even grabbing some of the kids in our neighborhood and taking them to church and having like a kind of like a church group and so on. They were shocked. They were like, man, like we thought that you were like settled. That you were like this. And my grandma, she said, I thought that you're gonna become a priest. It was so funny, because I used to go with her to church on a regular basis, and
and that reminds me, we have so many priests now, mashallah, becoming Muslim.
Right?
And we, there's so many of them, too many to name.
And it's not just now, actually. Throughout history, there's been so many, heads of churches and pastors and priests who have become Muslim. But that was something for me that was quite difficult to tell, my family that I become Muslim. And the first one I told was my mother, and I remember very well the day and how it was. How about you? Who did you tell first?
I told my father because my mother and father divorced when I was young, like 7. So I was living with my father at the time and my grandparents. So I remember telling my father, and to be fair, maybe my father might watch this, but he wasn't very happy about it.
Okay.
But then, to be honest, I was young when I became Muslim, 14, right?
Right.
After seeing some schoolboys praying. So I wasn't the teenagers. Sometimes you can be a bit argumentative with your parents.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't particularly out of control or anything like that. But I wasn't, I was a bit of a typical rude, answering back kind of teenager. So no one really explained to me. I believed in Allah and the concept of the one God. Alhamdulillah, that was enough.
Yes.
But no one said to me, Birrul Walidain, be righteous to the parents. It's a major sin.
Yes.
So, unfortunately, sometimes out of the compassion, I'm a Muslim and he's not a Muslim, so I'm right, he's wrong. So, I was being a bit rebellious, So instead of coming to him, he'd said to me, "Don't put the prayer mat in the house." I didn't have to have a prayer mat. You can pray anywhere, even on the street, as long as it's clean. So I would insist on having the prayer mat. So, so I would argue back.
I call this like the convert zeal, It's
Yeah.
like you're just so pumped up when you become Muslim, and you lose track of wisdom. It's kind of like you lose wisdom because, as you said, you don't need a prayer mat in Islam, and don't need certain things, but people insist, and they sometimes cause a lot of arguments and so on.
So it's one of those things, that. So in the beginning, with him, probably definitely not fully really understand what Islam is because. Unfortunately, many people don't choose to look into it.
Right.
They've heard of it, but they just don't bother because people, generally aren't really concerned about
Religion,
God,
God, or
religion, you
like,
know, and so his maybe lack of what Islam really was, and the fact that I was also being a rude teenager didn't really help the situation. So in the beginning, there was a lot of pressure from him. He would, wasn't happy for me to display any sign of Islam. And he thought it was like maybe I'm being taken into some kind of gang or something. This is going to ruin my life. But obviously, so initially he wasn't very happy. He would sometimes remove my prayer mats if I had an English Quran, and that kind of parents you're grounded, you can't, that kind of stuff to try and curb it. But as time went on later, he realized it was a serious decision, and now he's fine with obviously it. He's not a Muslim, but he's fine with it, and he's he's very, in his words, he's very proud now that I have this conviction and I'm doing Islamic TV shows and that kind of stuff.
It was weird because my father, I was kind of not scared, but it's not fear, but it's that respect they have towards the father figure, that the culture around, and coming from Romania, Eastern Europe, we had quite a strong culture, even though my father was not that church going, but you kind of feel like the family and the family name and who we are and our image and so on. So I was kind of shy to tell him, a bit scared, not out of fear but out of respect, right? And it was funny because with my mother, I told her right away, and we had some disagreements, and I told her, we had some arguments. As you said, I was a bit rude, and I told her, you're going to hell, and I kind of gave her an ultimatum. You either choose this or that. What do you want? And we had some arguments, and subhanAllah, after me being rude and telling her, really having no wisdom when calling her to Islam, at the beginning anyway, alhamdulillah, after it became better and I started to learn a bit more, and obviously I realized that you need to relax a bit. And yes, you warn people, you shouldn't be like, oh, don't worry, everything's fine, everyone's fine, how some people do. Don't worry, you're fine, you're safe, or anything like that. No, you warn people and you tell them that this is the reality of life and that they have to find the truth. At the same time, you have to use wisdom. You have to know when to speak, when not to speak, how not to speak, and so on. This is wisdom. And despite that, she embraced Islam, about 3 or 4 years after me, But with my father, the one that I was scared to tell about Islam, when I actually broke it down to him, he was like, that's cool. Like nothing, he had no issues with it. He asked me, we talked about it, and as your parents, my parents were also divorced. I went to visited him a lot and spoke to him and invited him to Islam and invited his wife and his family. But subhanAllah, the only one who accepted this invitation in the end was my mother.
I mean, you talk about that because even I remember also, because I wasn't living with my mother, but I remember telling my mother, and she was also, very like, oh, it's okay, She said, okay, a bit confused, a bit strange, and I remember my uncle Martin, my mum's brother, he's quite a good sense of humour. So I remember
I have an uncle like that.
I remember one time I was at my mother's house visiting a while after I'd taken Shahada. And again, it's based on that thing that Muslims must be Pakistanis because that's what they see in the UK. So I remember him calling me and said, Ismail, come and eat your chapati for breakfast. So, but they took it kind of okay. They thought it was a bit strange. I remember, my mother even slightly, off the topic, but my mother even one time, questioned my sexuality because I wasn't having a girlfriend, even though she knew I was a Muslim. But they didn't actually realize, that being a Muslim literally means that you're not going to have girlfriends and these things. So she was actually thinking, is everything okay there?
Okay, man.
It's like, of course, Mum. I'm a Muslim. Come on.
SubhanAllah. So one funny thing also was telling my friends, and obviously we have to understand and identify this, that it's an issue. Telling your parents is not easy. And at the same time, we can't blame the parents for some of the reactions because of the way Islam is portrayed and because of the way some Muslims behave.
Definitely.
And because of the way, and new Muslims have to understand that the way you tell your parents, how and when you tell your parents, and their reaction, these have to be calculated. And you have to be ready to deal with them based on the geopolitical situation and what's happening, where you are, what's your culture, what's the mentality about Islam and in that culture, and so on.
And this was a big factor. I remember with my family, they had this concept that Islam was a Pakistani or an Arab
Right.
religion. And I would say, well, if Islam's an Arab religion, then so was Christianity. Where was Jesus from? He wasn't from the UK or
It's Palestinian.
Germany, you know. But I remember they had this idea of Islam, not just from negative news. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it is now because, you know, unfortunately, some people in the name of Islam hadn't done so many bad things then. But they had this concept of what they've seen from Muslims. So you find, especially from certain areas, people who come from a certain origin, the husband would walk down the street and the wife would be walking miles behind him.
And they see that.
So
and
they say, Muslims don't respect women.
what you going to do, yeah.
Oh, of course they do. Oh, not forget the hijab scenario. They just say, oh, I've seen, we've got a Muslim down the road. His wife walks, you know, way behind him, like she's a second-class citizen. Or these Muslims, they spit, you know, pan on the street. Or this guy's their hygiene, for example. You know what it means. So they would judge Islam based on a certain ethnic group, and certain, not all of them, of course, certain acts they may see from certain parts of that ethnic group. And that, to them, that was Islam, because those were the people who were supposedly representing Islam in their eyes.
And a lot of new Muslims need to understand that sometimes you need to hold back and take it easy. You know, a lot of people just, as you said, they have that convert zeal and they just kind of go out and I become Muslim, and they start
many years later, when I went back to the UK after I came to the Emirates, I went back for a few years. I said to my father, you know, I said, look, I'm sorry for the way I acted as a teenager, and you know, and I was rude, and Islam, you know, Islam is completely against that. And I should never be rude to you like that. And that was just me, my ignorance, and me being a rude teenager. You know,
so you apologize for it and everything, which is, these are issues that, subhanAllah, new Muslims face, and they have to use wisdom when they approach, when they tell their parents, because it's not something easy. Anyway, we're going to hear from our guest, which is coming up right now. After we're going to take a break, inshallah. Abdullah is going to be with us. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be an awesome story. I've heard it before, but you didn't, so be here with us. Time to Please Allah on Huda TV after the break.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, He says.
فلا وربك لا يؤمنون حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم ثم لا يجدوا في أنفسهم حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما. There are 3 levels. Sister Rayhan from Bahrain.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Fahim from Sweden. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Barakallah feek, Fahim. May Allah bless you and your family.
Sheikh, I have one question.
Now, that is not allowed. Why isn't allowed? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man ghasha falaysa minna." He who deceives or betrays does not belong to us. He's not one of us. A person who is given the sadaqah or leading the prayer does not have necessarily to be praying fard. Maybe he's praying the nafl that is after the prayer, the 2 sunnah after dhuhr or after maghrib or after isha. And the follower, the imam, will be praying with the intention of offering the fard that he has missed. Okay, barakallahu feek.
Welcome to Tech Talk. I'm your host, Omar Shear. This season of Tech Talk, we will focus specifically on the internet.
A student would type their paper, and instead of handing me a hard copy of their paper, they would upload it to this learning system, this e-learning system.
I have some great experience when it comes to technology, and in particular, internet technology. Call to action is something that we do in our day-to-day lives, and maybe we don't realize it. Now we want to discuss, after you have a product and you have a website and you have a way to communicate with your customers, which would be your email marketing system, now it's time to take the money from the customer.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, he says, on all who spend in good cause.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Now, before we went to the break, we were talking about our guest, and we mentioned that he has a nice story, and that he took part in a conference or a series of talks about people who became Muslim. And we mentioned, mashallah, that one sister actually became Muslim after watching about our stories, and that is none than brother Abdullah Shetty. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Jazakallah khair. It's a pleasure being with two brothers whom I always love for the sake of Allah. And they're inspiration to me always, mashallah.
Well, we've obviously, as Jibril said, we've heard your story, mashallah.
Yes.
But alhamdulillah, I don't think any story of someone becoming Muslim, generally speaking, unless one guy says, one guy says, I became Muslim after having a love affair with a girl I met in a disco. Maybe we don't want to keep hearing that, but the good, mashallah, the normal, you could say it does happen, but alhamdulillah. And alhamdulillah, at least they're Muslim, but it's not quite as inspiring as we'd hope.
Right.
So yeah, obviously you have a nice story. So maybe you introduce yourself, and
we're going to kind of stop you and ask you some questions, because we're focusing on this
Inshallah.
new Muslim issues and some of the problems you face, and I know you faced quite a few problems. So tell us a little about yourself, and how did you become Muslim?
The whole story, to wrap up in a short time, I think I'll have to rush through a lot of things, inshallah. But let me try to cover as much as I can, inshallah.
Then we'll get interrupted probably.
Inshallah.
Phone calls this year.
My name is Abdullah Shetty. I come from a place called Udupi in the southern part of India. As the surname goes, Shetty, I'm originally from a Hindu family.
Is that a caste, Shetty?
Yes, this is one of the sub-castes.
Okay,
yes.
I was asking someone.
And Hindus generally, I assume that they are of two types, 98% of which they follow the religion because they feel their father has been doing it, the society has been doing it, people around them have been doing it, but they don't know why they are doing it. And there are the other 2% who want to know the reason behind what they are doing. They want to question the religion itself. So I was from this other 2%. So you name any, almost all the major temples in southern part of India, I've been there, trying to find out what is the purpose of life, what am I supposed to do, why am I here, what's after death, and so many other questions that generally people have when they have enough time in life. And over a period of time of worshipping stone, monkey, trees, pigs, snakes, elephants, and everything else, I remember a day I was sitting in my home in front of the room where there's a temple, where they put up the portraits of all the gods, and there's the portrait which has some dust on top of it. And it makes me question that this portrait that I've been asking all this while, praying to, is unable to remove this dust that's sitting on its own face. And how can this thing that has been created by somebody help me? That's what,
So you came to this realization by yourself?
Yes.
It kind of reminds me to some extent of the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, where he wanted to show these people, obviously a different extent, but he wanted to show the people how these idols, they couldn't save themselves from being destroyed. So you can relate to that. They can't even stop the dust, or maybe even sometimes a bird will fly and droppings on it. Yeah, literally, and they can't do anything about it.
So after that I try to look into different other groups also, and since I used to go study in a Christian school, and you generally see the Christians being really nice, they call you for Christmas, the parents are cool, and they treat you very nicely overall. I thought that this is the way, this is the religion that I need to get into, and so I just ended up receiving a Bible from one of my friends. The strange part of the Bible is, you open the first page, it says Revised Edition. So the moment you see that this is from God and it says Revised Edition, you don't even want to read the next pages.
Okay.
And then you just close it back. I did go through the other pages, and there are a lot of questions which doesn't make sense, and it's too complicated. For me, religion was something that even a layman should understand. It's not something that a scholar or somebody learned, should grasp. So,
and with all due respect, even you're talking about Christianity, their scholars still don't grasp the basic concepts of Aqidah, their Aqidah.
True.
Which is
So from 3,333,000 gods, I ended up into 3 gods.
Wait, how many? Say again?
I don't know the numbers actually. It's 3, a long list of 3s actually. Yes. So I reached to 3 gods. And then I directly jumped to 0. And I became an atheist in college. I thought there is no God. Just, like how most people live, that enjoy life, whatever it is, it's here. After that, there is nothing. So I went in the wrong track with the wrong friends, doing all the wrong stuff. My family started hating me. And the immediate question that generally would pop up is, why didn't I look into Islam? Although there were a lot of Muslim friends and Muslims around me, my father had Muslim friends. But then I could not make out a difference between myself and him.
Did the Muslims ever tell you about Islam or invite you to Islam?
No, none of them actually did so. And I really do not, like for example, when I used to go to the temple feast, they used to be along with me. And anything, we used to go to the movies together, we used to do all stuff together.
You said something very important. You said you couldn't see a difference between you and them.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that for a second?
Everything that I do is exactly what they do. There's nothing else. They don't have a code of life, something that makes them resemble like, they don't even look like Muslims, something that they, can keep me separate from them.
So there's no way to differentiate between the two.
Yes.
And that, goes back to our role models shows, subhanAllah.
And Prophet mentioned this also to make sure you look different and you should differentiate yourself from
even if they're just acting different. Imagine you said to him, let's go to the bar, and the guy, so he's gone to the movies, and then he says, I don't go to the bars. Why? I'm a Muslim, we don't drink. Oh, how come? We believe this. At least that alone, if he does everything else, he goes to the movies, at least something like that would have made a difference, But when, like you said, when there's they are not giving any kind of role models.
Since I'm a new Muslim, people generally approach me and they ask me, what is the way to convince Hindus especially? So I tell them, see, it's not about convincing other people. It's about showing them how convinced you are. The moment they see that you are convinced about what you're talking, that's when they will come and ask you. Even if you're walking on the street without even talking to that person, he'll come and ask you about your religion. So, however, in college I met a good friend, Muslim friend. We used to travel a lot throughout India, and one fine day the topic of religion came up, and he said that Muslims worship one God. And this was shocking news to me. I really never knew that. Because on the media you see Muslims always, they go to the graves. And then you see on the masjid there's a moon and a star.
Yeah.
And then you see people doing tawaf around the Kaaba. So as a Hindu, everything is materialistic for us. You associate things with something present over there.
Right.
So I thought the Muslims worship either the Kaaba or the moon or the star or some guy with the green thobe on top with a long beard, something like that. So the moment he told me that Muslims worship one God, and he knew very basics about Islam. So he just told me that he has no partners, he does not look like any one of us, he was always there. Some few basic attributes of Allah.
Right.
And this just blew my mind out. It felt like this is what I was been looking all this while for. However, there are two things that stop a person from becoming Muslim. First is the society, which most new Muslims face, and they come to the conclusion that Islam is true. But then to move forward, they're worried about what their family says, what other people around them will say, how will they react. For me, since I was already on the wrong track, I didn't care about anybody else. For me, that part was easy. The other part was the ego. I had too much ego inside me. So it took me around 3 months to do my research and finally come to the conclusion that yes, Islam is the true religion. And then I told him that I want to become Muslim, and that's how, in short, I became Muslim after that.
So let me ask you, what was the, when you became Muslim, what was the point that made you say, okay, this is it. Now I need to be a Muslim. Like, was there a spark or something that happened or anything like that?
Actually, what my friend did was he gave me an English Quran, and he said, read and help me understand, because he was not fluent with English. So I used to read thinking that let me teach his religion to him. And then the verses of the Quran are as such that the moment you read it, it's like a lightning striking your heart. And the more you read, the more convinced you are. This is the beauty of the religion. Yani. Now every day when I sit and study about my religion, I'm convinced more about it. There has not been a single day in the past 5 years where I felt that, oh my God, what did I do? Did I take a wrong step? No. The more you learn, the more you're convinced about it. And the sad part of any other religion you take is the more you learn, the more you're convinced that it is not the true religion.
Or the more you're confused.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mashallah. What about, how did you tell, because we talked about telling parents. How did you break it down to your parents?
Actually, in the beginning, my plan was to keep it secret from them, not tell it to anybody. I thought that Allah knows what's in my heart, so I'll just pray in secret and I'll not go to the temple, just keep it for myself, because the place that I come from is very communal. The moment and the family that I come from, over there honor precedes everything else. So the moment they come to know your son is a Muslim, they would prefer not having a son. So I chose this idea of keeping it a secret, which the Prophet did in the beginning few years. However, Allah has His own plans. I had an accident, a serious accident. I was bedridden for 3 months, and for the 3 months, every single day, what used to happen was, since a lot of Muslims knew that I became Muslim, they used to come with their families, visit me. And my mom is sitting there, she's wondering, this guy comes from a Shetty's family, his own relatives are not visiting him even once a month, and these people are coming every single day. So they bring fruits, they come ask, this is how the Muslims are. Yes. So she starts wondering what's happening. So I use this opportunity to tell her who the Muslims are, because if I tell her that I'm a Muslim, there's a mental block, and she doesn't want to listen to me. So Allah gave that understanding that at that point I told her that these are the Muslims, this is what they believe. They do not believe in grave worship, they do not believe in idol worship, they worship the one true God. And I clarified all her misconceptions. So after 3 months, when I was able to walk, I finally told her, see, I want to become Muslim. And Allah gave me this chance of being close to her, because before that I was never close to her. For 3 months I had to be with her, and Allah softened her heart to an extent that she said, okay, you be Muslim, but don't force me. And she used to take me to the masjid, drop me till I pray, and then she used to wait outside and then bring me back to the home when I was walking with my crutches.
So that was your mother?
Yes.
What about your father though? Was he aware of it, or did you keep it secret from him?
He was aware of it, but then we were not so close to each other, so he was least bothered about what's happening in my life at that time. And then after a few months, I decided, let me move out to Dubai, because I wanted to learn more about the religion. I wanted to be in a Muslim country and pray and do basic things, because over there it was getting a bit difficult. So when I came here, all that I used to do was be in touch with my mom. I used to just call her up and say, Mom, how are you? I miss you, I love you. And generally in the Hindu tradition, this is not something common that people do. So in the beginning she thought maybe he's lost his mind. And then the initial reaction also is that it is for the sake of a girl. He's fallen in love and he's trying to, change the religion.
Nice
trying
with me,
butter me up,
so
make me
prepare,
sweet.
yeah?
So,
Correct,
hey,
exactly.
Mom, guess
Now,
what?
why did you? I mean, this is a beautiful thing that you did. I mean, it's about love. I mean, why did you do that?
Because I used to read a lot of books, and then I realized that Islam, encourages you to express your love to your parents. So I thought all these years I spent in the state of kufr without doing this. So let me start immediately. Why to delay? So I used to, and even if your parents are non-Muslim, you're still expected to be extra good to them. So I started being nice to her. In the beginning, she thought maybe psychological issues, maybe he's experimenting, just how like all these years he's been experimenting. He'll get over it. But over a period of time, she saw a lot of things change. She saw me, and I started growing a beard. I used to pray 5 times. She knew about all this. My friend list changed. My timings changed. I used to be at home when I was there. So she saw the changes. And that's when she realized that this is something serious. This is not an experiment. He's not playing around. I was 17 at that time. But then she saw me become more responsible, more mature. The way I speak changed. There were no bad words coming up. Earlier, every sentence used to end with a bad word, but now there were no bad words coming out of my mouth. I'm extra nice to my family. So this made her sit and wonder, what is it all about? And she did her own research, and one fine day when I was in Dubai, she took the shahada on the phone. Allah, and I just could not believe that day, actually. And the same day I spoke to my sister, who had, she always used to stay away from idol worship, and she didn't like all this. Her fitra was with her. But she always used to say, I agree with whatever you say, but I don't want to become Muslim. Because she used to hate the Muslims that were in her place, around her. So I used to say, don't go by what people do. Look at what the religion says. There are good and bad in everything that you do. So, but on that day, Allah put it in her heart that she also took the shahada on the same day. And mom and sister didn't know for a couple of hours that they took the shahada.
Allah. That's amazing. 2 questions.
Yes.
You said that you changed your friends list. Okay. How difficult was that, and how important is that for a new Muslim? Because obviously, once you've become Muslim now, it's not easy, and you'll be pulled. Your friends will pull you back. So how difficult was that for you? How did you do it, and why is it important?
It was not difficult for me, because generally I didn't change it. The moment you start practicing religions, the ones who really love you will stick to you, and the ones who have an issue will automatically drop by. And the ones who really love you are the ones who will love you for the sake of Allah. There is no other love except for the sake of Allah. So only the ones who I used to meet in the masjid were my friends, who used to pray with me were my friends. And with this, I also realized what true friendship is. The situation was quite intense in my place, that I used to go openly to the masjid, and there was threat to my life also. But there were Muslim brothers who used to say, come and tell me, do not worry, if anything happens, we are there to give up our lives for your sake. And nothing happened, alhamdulillah, because I knew that if the whole world gets together and tries to plot anything against you, unless Allah wills, they cannot do anything. So nothing happened, alhamdulillah. But then just having this feeling that there are brothers like this who care for you, who love you for the sake of Allah, is a big relief. Second thing is, when you have a lot of non-Muslim friends around, you will be pulled back to doing certain things that Allah does not like. So the best way is to cut off relationship at that point of time. Even if you want to keep for the sake of dawah, go ahead. But then you're still a new Muslim and you're still have limited knowledge. So best would be for you to seek knowledge, become firm yourself, and then you'll be able to answer their questions.
But what about, going back to this, let's elaborate more, because a lot of people are facing this. You grew up with friends that you were very close to and so on, and now you've changed, and your friends will say, you're leaving me, look, we have such a history. And sometimes some people, some of the new Muslims, they become weak, right? They say, oh yeah, man, maybe I should stay close to it. I mean, how do we deal with this situation?
It was not just non-Muslim friends. I had Muslim friends also who left me after I became Muslim.
Right.
Because they started getting annoyed. I used to say everything that they do is haram by the religion. I mean, I used to start questioning.
And they won't like that, of course. So yes. Actually, it's fun. That's true.
I had a friend of mine who's a German brother. When he became Muslim, this is, sad and shocking. He had Muslims, because they used to get together and do the party life. He had Muslims calling him and said, why have you become a Muslim?
Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? Now you're not going to come and party with us. I was just, when he told me, my mouth was like, it's one thing, you have this weakness and you get the whisperings, oh man, he's not going to come and party anymore. But to literally call up and say, why'd you become Muslim, man? Don't do it. That's just that's just ridiculous, crazy stuff,
The whole transition becomes easy because Allah makes it easy on you. And in that early phase, you are in so much love with the religion that you really don't care who's around, who's not.
Yes, and it's the strength at the beginning, subhanAllah.
You know that, you feel that connection that you have with Allah, that you wherever you go, you know that you have to ask the one true Lord, and He's there to take care of you. You actually.
This is something that is very important because, and this is for new Muslims to understand that it's very difficult. Like, I know a lot of new Muslims that their friends abandon them, as you said, and their families abandon, and they're really. The worst thing is that even the Muslims don't take care of them. And I had a brother, subhanAllah, who used to say, that, my family left me, and you guys are leaving me. Like, you're not helping me. He was really eager to learn, and sometimes the Muslims, they wouldn't come up and take care of him and help him. And I'm not saying that everyone should sacrifice and give up everything. Inshallah, this would be the right way, and this is what the Ansar and Muhajirin did. But at least the Muslims should have some kind of a system. This is what I find throughout the world, in most places that I've traveled to, that there's no follow-up or new Muslim support, and this is something very important. We're good at giving da'wah. Alhamdulillah, I don't think it's or I don't think it's rocket science for someone to become Muslim. I think any person who has any common sense and reason and understands can see that Islam is the truth. Some people, and they say, I know this is the truth, but as you say, I don't want to become Muslim. But subhanAllah, I think the hardest part is to deal with that first 2 years, where, as you said, people leave you, and sometimes you're by yourself, right? So what do you do when you're by yourself?
When you start seeking Allah's help, for example, with me, what happened was, I was like the guy the whole family used to hate, even my cousins, everybody. I was not invited anywhere because I used to
even before.
Yes, before Islam. But now, subhanAllah, because I started doing things for the sake of Allah, Allah put love in all these people's heart for me now. They love me more. They keep calling me. My non-Muslim relatives, they speak to my family at least once a week, twice a week from India, and you won't believe, when they have some issues in their families, they call us up and ask for solutions, because they feel we have found solutions in our own lives. So when you do things for the sake of Allah, and you do not worry about what people will think, automatically Allah will put love in people's heart. But when you try to please the people, believe me, there will not be a single day when you get up and think, alhamdulillah, everybody's pleased with me. It will never happen. So just taking the right steps for the sake of Allah will make life really easy. Do not worry about what people think, because everybody's heart is in the control of Allah. So if Allah puts it into their heart, nobody can change it. If Allah has decreed that they will love you, nobody can stop it. So this is the way all new Muslims should try to go.
What about this might be, but when I became Muslim, there was you're involved with, sometimes you have a relationship or something like that, and a lot of brothers and sisters that I know, they're sometimes married to a non-Muslim when they become Muslim, or they have a girlfriend or boyfriend or something like that. I don't know, did you have anyone at that time, or no?
I plan to get married, so I don't think I would discuss about this. Yeah, but so then yes,
because this is an issue.
I was in college. I was involved in a lot of stuff. But alhamdulillah, when religion falls into place, everything else sets in. You have a vision. Although I was 17, I knew exactly what I'm supposed to do, because Allah has told me in the Quran, when you use your mind at whatever age you are, you have a limitation. But when you live your life the way Allah, who created you, has decreed, and He has decided that this is best for you, life becomes very easy. Every decision in your life is really simple and easy, relaxed. You just need to know what Allah has told in this particular matter. So even in terms of relationship, I knew that this what is haram, what is halal. So it was easy for me to give up what I had at that particular time.
This reminds me of the verse, whoever fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever, like as you said, to be really, khalas, Allah is going to take care of me. Allah is going to give me what I need. Allah is going to open up, Allah will open up these ways that you don't even know. How come things just fall into place and things become very easy, subhanAllah. All of us here are sitting here, as how long, as new Muslims, I still call myself a new Muslim. Do you still call yourself a new Muslim, Ismail?
Yeah, I do, yeah. But then sometimes you have to say, I'm an old new Muslim,
New Muslim.
I do when people try to speak Arabic to me because of my lahja.
Oh, okay.
So I say, I'm new Muslim Jadid.
How long has it been since
It's been around 5 years now.
5 years. Yes. And I know that you have been working in da'wah since then, alhamdulillah. Now, how did you get involved in da'wah? I mean, you received da'wah and then you passed on. Some people become Muslim, or some people are Muslim their whole lives, and they don't do that. I mean, why did you feel this need to get involved in this field?
When somebody who's fallen into a ditch comes out of it, he knows how badly it's hurt him being there and how dirty it is. So I see people around me, especially in this country, mashallah, where the government itself supports dawah, and you are encouraged to do dawah. I see people around whom I feel the urge to approach them and talk to them. So what better than doing this full time? So this is how Allah has made it easy for me to be a part of this Kalima New Muslim Center, where I believe me, the day I've joined till today, there hasn't been a single day when I have not heard about somebody becoming Muslim. Alhamdulillah.
We'll just stop you there, because we're gonna go for a break now. Join us inshallah after the break.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, He says.
Reading the Quran is a blessing. Understanding its translation is beautiful. But diving in depth and extracting pearls from it is simply amazing. Do they not ponder upon the Quran? Every week, inshallah, we will dig deep and reflect on the verses of the Quran one by one.
Quran in Depth with Sheikh Ibrahim Zaidan, only on Huda TV.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. You're not giving it to him because he has black eyes or blue eyes. You're giving it to him because of his position. And that is why you're giving it to this particular department's head rather than giving it to the HR GM, for example. Nobody gives the HR GM anything because they don't want anything from him until they want a job. Therefore, this is the way you can judge whether it's a bribe or not. To get into a halal transaction, first of all, the bank or the financial institution should acquire and own this apartment before any commitment.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, he says, on all who spend in good cause.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Welcome back. Time to please Allah here on Huda TV, and we are here with our brother Abdullah. And before we took the break, we're talking about da'wah. But just before that, I want to remind our viewers that the lines are open now. You can call, inshallah, and comment or ask a question of Abdullah or ourselves.
Even if it's just last week, mashallah, we had a couple of people, they just called to say salam, especially, Allah bless them, the African brothers calling in. So don't be shy, just give us a call. And we know there's so many of you guys in Dubai, inshallah, watching us now.
Yes.
It's a Dubai number. Just give us a call. SubhanAllah, maybe something you say will be benefit to us, benefit to the other viewers, inshallah.
And just in a few minutes we'll be
checking out the
Facebook.
Well.
So if you want to leave a message on Facebook, or for next week, we're also going to be talking about another interesting topic that we'll tell you. So you got to check out with our Facebook to know the topic for next week. So Abdullah, back to you. Amazing story, subhanAllah. And amazing thing is that your mother became Muslim and your sister became Muslim. And alhamdulillah, anyone else from your family became Muslim?
My cousin, she became Muslim. My best friend also became Muslim. So, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Now, let's go back to your da'wah. And you're working for Kalima Institute, yes, alhamdulillah, in Dubai, right? And what do you guys do? What's it all about?
Like how we were talking a few minutes back about the support for new Muslims. We have, the center itself has the vision of bridging this gap of people becoming Muslim and then not getting any support. So we are in between to provide them the support in terms of, especially about seeking knowledge. So we have classes in Filipino, Chinese, English, Urdu, and
are there a lot of Chinese converts, mashallah?
The number of Chinese converts are around, say, 1 or 2 a week, every week.
Really?
Yes,
mashallah. And you guys have a regular class?
Yes, every Friday we have a class for Arabic language, where we have people, Chinese from the souk, they come here to learn Arabic, the business Arabic.
Really?
But what we have done is, after the class, every 15 minutes they have to attend and listen about Islam, adab, akhlaq, and basics. So because of that, we've seen at least a shahada every week. Do
you have like a Chinese da'i there?
Yes, we have a Chinese full-time teacher in Kalima, mashallah.
Mashallah.
Alhamdulillah. And then we also have Filipino classes, and you can say, like, for example, last year the number of shahadas was around 178. Out of which 70% are Filipinos.
I want to ask about this, because this is a trend that I see in the Islamic Information Center. You probably know better than I, as you're working there. Why do you think Filipinos are coming in groups, afwaja, in Islam, and it seems like they're staying, and sometimes you hear stories of people coming and then you don't see them after some time, but it seems like they're very strong and connected, and they're seeking knowledge, and they're involved in da'wah and so on. Well, what's the reason? Because this is something that I've even mentioned to some brothers, that we should study this phenomenon to be able to implement. Like, how come their community is so successful at embracing Islam, at the same time staying strong and clicking together and supporting each other? This is something that needs to be looked at.
Yes. I've seen one thing in them is commitment. Whenever they've started joining classes, I see them every Friday for the next 6 months. They're very committed. They have very close bonds. Be it family, friends. They're very closely knit. And when somebody becomes Muslim, like yesterday, there was somebody who wanted to take shahada, and along with him was a non-Muslim who brought him there, his relative. Yeah. So they are easy with this. Unlike Hindus or unlike the subcontinent. Mm-hmm. And the other reason, I don't know how far it is true, that their ancestors were Muslims. This is what I also heard.
That is true, yeah. Yes. Philippines was...
I think generally from my experience as well, the Filipino, mashallah, they generally have that kind of love of God.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
That kind of religiousness. Yes. So they have that love. So if you get them in a conversation and you get to explain Islam to them properly, and they see, hey, this makes complete sense, many of them will very easily take shahada. I've seen many a time through the Filipino da'is, giving people, and within half an hour the person's become Muslim over and over again, because they have that love for God, and Allah knows best. Maybe in their case, sometimes it's a lot more sincere than maybe other nationalities. So they're very willing, and like you said, they're very generally, Filipinos with other Filipinos are very family-like. They're like a one big family in the sense that they can easily meet up and say, "Hey, my fellow citizen," and they get as if they know each other. Where sometimes in the West, you're from the UK, okay, whatever, you're a Canadian, yeah, nice to meet you, and that's it. But they're very, like I said, very close knit. So I think that helps in the sense of how they manage to be so.
I remember one time there was a Filipino brother who came to take Shahada. He took the Shahada and he started crying immediately. So I asked him, "Why are you crying?" He says, "Because my sister's phone is not reachable and I want to give dawah to her now itself."
Allah.
SubhanAllah. And they're very accepting, they listen, they're okay with the conversation, and they have also less ego compared to other people. So they are ready to discuss. You can stop them anywhere on the road. You just say, "Hi, how are you?" and talk to them about religion. They're very open. They want to.
They are
discuss.
open. And they're very friendly. SubhanAllah.
Alhamdulillah.
Mashallah.
Maybe we can have a look at some of the Facebook comments.
Inshallah. Let's start looking at. Reminding the viewers again that the lines are open. You can call or you can drop us a line on Facebook.
I mean, I'm just looking. For example, I posted this on our page. I was basically saying that today's show was amazing. We had around 10 calls, mashallah. We managed to answer that others were waiting, and may Allah bless the show. And I mentioned that there was a South African sister who called and said she loved the show. So as I mentioned, we had another sister came and said we do love the show. We had Sister Michelle Mendoza. We had Sister Sajida Ahmed saying, mashallah, it was really good and your guest was amazing and it was wonderful to hear about his reversion and what he experienced. We had Muhammad Al-Fatih Balula. He said, Assalamu alaikum, this is the first time to see your show. It's really amazing. It's a really amazing one and your guest is a good man and I hope for you best wishes. So we've got Brother Iyari, the African-American brother last week. Yes. We have a user here, Islam is a complete way of life. I watched the show today. We have a call. As-Sadiq Muhammad from Sudan. Assalamu alaikum, brother. As-Sadiq Muhammad.
Yes, alaikum salam.
How are you, brother?
Sadiq Muhammad from Sudan. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Yes. Maybe if you could turn down the television, inshallah.
I'm fine, I'm fine. Yes, now I'm watching television.
Yeah, if you could turn the volume on the television down because we can hear the repeating, inshallah. So what did you want to share with us today, brother?
Okay, listening.
Mashallah.
Yes, what would you like to do you have any comments, inshallah?
What did you want to share with us today, brother?
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, it seems we lost the brother Sadiq there. So I'll go back to the comment. We had Islam is a complete way of life. He or she. I watched the show today and really enjoyed it. Alhamdulillah, looking forward to watch the series. A quick suggestion for a good topic is the trials, hardships and struggles that new Muslims face and real life stories, which alhamdulillah we've covered to some extent. It's always inspirational for born Muslims to hear about these experiences and reflect on how others have bigger trials that they manage to pull through with patience and with the help of Allah.
One thing that okay, we have another call before, but I have something ready. But yeah, go ahead. Assalamu alaikum. We have Muna.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, sister.
Yes. Please, thank you so much for your successful program. May Allah reward you and reward your guests today. I wanted to congratulate your guest today because he converted Islam. And the brother Gabriel said ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب. Really, ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب. I wanted to ask Brother Abdullah, how did he reach to this strong faith? How did he reach to this tranquility and peace of mind? Thank you so much. Thank you for your listening.
Yes, this yaqeen, yani, how do you have this yaqeen? MashaAllah, and you can feel it. Yani, whenever you meet Abdullah, it's like, and he's firm, man, mashallah.
Maybe it looks like I'm, I don't know what to say. one of the things that the scholars that I've studied under advised us is try to perfect your faraid. What happens is a lot of new Muslims, and even me myself, we went through this phase where we focused on a lot of other issues like dawah, like trying to convince people and trying to do many other things which are important. But then we were not regular about our prayers. We were not regular. We were not, maintaining ties with our families. We are not doing things that Allah has obliged on us, and which is more important.
Which is the fard.
Yes, yeah, this is the fard. Yes. So we left out on our priorities and we focused on something less important. That's when all the issues happen. But when you start focusing on what comes first, what Allah has asked you to do, and what you are expected to do, and then you work on the voluntary deeds and you go in this way, Allah makes it very easy. This is what one of the advices that I have benefited from Sheikh Fadl Tahiri.
MashaAllah, that's something beautiful. Actually, I had something you were talking about, trials and tribulations of the new Muslims. The one thing that, as a new Muslim, that I really make a connection to is Hayat Sahaba. The Sahaba of the Prophet, they themselves were new Muslims. And I always say that it is very important to study their lives and to understand specifically the early Meccan period when they came out finally and they declared that they embraced Islam, and the trials and tribulations that they faced. Right? Because sometimes when we look at the Sahaba, we think that khalas, they're Muslims, every time Muslims. But they were, they're Muslims, of course, but they became Muslim. And a lot of them had issues that they dealt with. They had, carry-on luggage that they carried with them from their past that they had to deal with. And the Prophet ﷺ helped them deal with. And then they went and asked the Prophet ﷺ for help with. Be it past relationships, be it some of the Sahaba had issues with, subhanAllah, even some, drinking and so, because a lot of new Muslims, they're facing these challenges.
I remember without the full story, one of the Sahaba was so in love with a particular woman.
Yes.
And, it was really hard for him, subhanAllah, and, you had the companion who kept going to the Prophet ﷺ and said, give me the permission to fornicate.
Yes, subhanAllah.
The Prophet ﷺ said to him, would you like it for your sister, for your mother, for your aunt? And the Prophet made dua for him, and he said, after that, he subhanAllah never went back to that.
Abu Mahjan, for example, subhanAllah, he was drinking, subhanAllah. And we know the Ba'al Qadisi with Sa'ad. But that's the one thing that when you look at their life, you are seeing the issues that the converts still today they're facing with, and they're very important to understand how they dealt with these issues and to study, to really go deep in there and study and take the solutions. How did they deal with these issues? How did they get over some of these things?
There's an event that Kalima Center is planning for the month of January, around 17th, 18th. It's going to be a new Muslim summit with for Filipinos, Chinese and English speakers, and we're going to get international speakers. So one of the speakers, he sent a topic through email, which he wanted to talk about, and the topic was the Prophet ﷺ as a new Muslim. Allah. So this actually made us sit and think, there was a phase where the Prophet ﷺ actually lived the life that most new Muslims go through, the initial phase, where people around him are against him, nobody's supporting him, his family is against him. So the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ is the best example for every
Muslim. It's a manual,
Muslim.
subhanAllah, for new Muslims. MashaAllah.
Going back to the comments, we had Sister Javon Javila James. Remember, Brother Iari was from North Carolina. So she's saying, MashaAllah, I enjoyed the show. I am also from North Carolina, born and raised. However, I'm currently in Sudan with my husband and our children. I am 13 years in Islam. I think a big issue for reverts is finding good brothers and sisters, which we, MashaAllah, spoke about, to help them in their transition. When I am home in the States, I try to help new Muslims as much as I can. Lots of us leave the States for various reasons, which leave our brothers and sisters without meaningful companionship. May Allah bless you all for your efforts and increase the impact that Huda TV has in the world.
Amen.
And now we've got another call. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Abdul Qadir, I believe. Abdul Qadir from Somalia.
MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Abdul Qadir.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi in Somalia.
MashaAllah. How is Somalia?
I call all the Muslims to stand there, how to defend their religion.
Yes, MashaAllah.
and help them, their brothers in Syria and Somalia also.
Yes.
And everywhere in the world.
Inshallah.
Ameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all the Muslims and help them, inshallah. Barakallah fiqh. Thank you so much, mashallah. It's nice, subhanAllah, when you, even though people having, they're not shy, because, their language might not be, but subhanAllah, they're still calling and,
And it's very nice. We had
it's amazing.
Last week we had Dubai, and we had Egypt and Cameroon and Nigeria and Ghana. It was, mashallah, very nice.
SubhanAllah. I have one, thing that kind of came to mind again, and we're talking about. The sister said that it's difficult to find righteous brothers and sisters to help you. One of the issues that new Muslims face when they become Muslims, specifically sisters, is the issue of marriage, right? It's usually sometimes, sister becomes, she's a new Muslim, she just took shahada. I literally seen, some of the Caucasian sisters taking shahada, and as soon as they walk out, they're like, proposals are coming, right away. SubhanAllah. So sometimes people are rushing, and some of them obviously they're rushing to get married right away. What do you think for brothers and sisters? What's your advice, Abdullah, in terms of marriage? Should a new Muslim get married right away? Should they wait? Is this a means of support maybe for them for transition or not?
The situation varies from individual to individual, but then in general, when he feels he's become stable in terms of his knowledge and in terms of his understanding of the religion itself, I think he should move ahead with the step of marriage, which will help him get more grounded and more stable in the deen itself, because it's going to fulfill half of his deen. However, I have a particular view in terms of this marriage, that, for example, myself, I'm still looking for, inshallah, that revert generally, if like myself, I have a mom and a sister, so I'm looking to get married to a born Muslim. The reason being, for them, they have left their family, they left the whole community. So I don't want them to, feel anything missing in their life. Islam has given us everything. So why just leave this thing out? So I'm looking for this. So generally it works out. Sometimes the reverts get married to each other, but then they miss out on this. Yes. Okay. But then they miss out on this whole family thing. They don't have a family, and maybe over a period of time they'll feel this thing, as a missing part in their life.
This is an interesting point and amazing point. I would like to actually have a few things to maybe add to this and spin it a bit around, because sometimes marrying into an already Muslim family, there's a lot of issues even,
Correct, I agree with that.
Because culture and so on. So this is probably a topic for another episode maybe, and so on. And subhanAllah, we just ran out of time. And what an amazing episode.
As they say, good things have to come to an end.
And it was an amazing episode, and I hope you can come back again on a future show, inshallah.
It was a pleasure being with you.
Alhamdulillah. An inspiring story always, even though I've heard it before. But
may Allah make me better than what...
I mean. And again, we remind you about our Facebook, A Time to Please Allah, Ismail Bullock and Gabriel Al-Romaani, our Facebooks. And don't forget to send us a message and call, inshallah. And
I just got to do one thing before we go.
Okay.
Sorry. 3 messages.
Yes.
From Al-Warda Al-Bayda, the program is very interesting. From Asima Mazhar, I thoroughly enjoyed today's show. And from Hamoudi Hamdan, Assalamu alaikum, I really love your topic, a very inspiring topic. May Allah bless you all.
This is from today?
Yes, and we can go out with a bang, inshallah.
So, Jazakallah khair, Barakallah feekum. Again, from your host, Gabriel Al-Romaani and
Ismail Bullock.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
To please Allah, a chance to gain reward I will spend on you, he says, all who spend in good cause. Good deeds are opportunities, sparkling bright and true, raising you in the sight of Allah and adorning Al-Jannah for you. So rush to earn his reward. Don't forget the